Chill out. Park it. Kick back, spark it. Welcome to the spot where money talks honest. Yeah. This is Gosh Talk with Bill Haase. Real life money in your front seat. From the paycheck to the profit. Turn that I don't know to I got this. Gosh Talk with Bill Haase. Blueprint stacked on the workbench. From the hustle to the harvest. Learning what they never really taught us. So if you're tired of the fine print winning, slide a chair in, that's a new beginning. We keep it straight, keep it smart, keep it classy. You're tuned in now, Gosh Talk with Bill Haase.
Welcome to a new episode of Garage Talk with Bill Haase. You know, this show is a little bit different. It is a financial show, but it is not about what to do with your money, how to invest it. It's more about your mindset on money and how it controls you, how you can get your control back. But today I have a very special guest. He's not of this country, so he's got a very different perspective. I don't know, Meade Kincke, is that pronounced correctly?
Kincke.
Okay, I was going to say kinky, but
Yeah, no, anytime you see like CK together, it's always like old Austrian, old German. So yeah, Herr Kincke.
Herr King, well, sprechen Sie Deutsch.
Ein bisschen. Sehr gut, sehr gut.
But welcome into the show. And
Thank you for
I know
having
your
me.
accent sounds a little bit like you might be from Milan or
Wisconsin.
Lisbon?
Wisconsin. It's a Wisconsin accent. Yeah. I grew up like we have wonderful things in Wisconsin. Like we drink water from a bubbler. We don't. The lexicon is different. We don't call it water fountain. And this is just this is very middle Wisconsin. Yeah, a lot of people don't know. It's just kind of very island-like, and no, we can keep
I
going
know
for
it
days.
because I graduated high school and spent a little bit of time in college in Wisconsin, so
There we
I'm
go.
kind of familiar with all that.
Yeah.
So I love bringing you on because
Oh, thank
you
you.
have a very different perspective.
Sure.
And you're. Do you want to let people know where you're really at?
So, yeah, as far as my pedigree, the way I've said it is everyone you want to drink with. So we have Austria, Germany, border France, County Cork, Ireland, just the professionals of the drinking world. But actually, yeah, I'm dialing in from Missouri of all places.
Are you really?
Indeed, that.
See, I did not know that.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
could I have not known that? We've had a few chats, but
We've talked about more curious things. I'll just say it that way.
well, let me ask you this then.
Yeah, yeah.
What are your thoughts on how Americans handle their money?
So I think what I've noticed is that, especially in the kind of the populace, like public education and whatnot, it's been on a sharp decline. So when you look at, in the 1950s and so on, it used to have things like home economics, like let's teach people how to take care of themselves, how to cook, how to clean, how to do this. And there really is no practical education. Like you go, oh, let's learn European history. And people go, great, I know what Napoleon did in this year. Do I know how to open a checking account? And you go like, don't worry about that. You'll never need that. You just, you learn about Napoleon because that's pertinent. And I think that's the thing, is that nothing practical is being taught to people. So it's not exactly a shock that people are not knowledgeable about business and like what to do and what to invest in. Like I was just on a call talking about hard currency, and you go, yeah, as it turns out, you might want to know about this gold and silver stuff. It's kind of been around for a little bit. I don't know. It's kind of shiny. Maybe you like it. So that's my perspective, is that I feel like it's not an issue that people have taken upon themselves to say, like, I don't want to know what it is. They're just not being taught. So I see it in that sort of mindset, you know?
Yeah, you're spot on. And we could do a whole nother show on our educational.
Oh, no. Miniature
And
soapboxes.
that's a pet peeve of mine because you're spot on. We're not taught anything about money and
No.
many aspects of life that would be more beneficial to us going forward.
Yeah,
Um, but the thing is, with money, you're not supposed to talk about it. And who wants
exactly.
to talk about something they know nothing about? I used to go into in front of groups when I was a financial advisor, and I would say, "Look, there's two things I know spouses almost never talk about: money and sex. I'm here to
Hmm.
help you with one of those." And try to break up the room a little bit. But the reality is if they're not talking about it, they're not teaching their kids. So
No.
you're not getting it at home, you're not getting it at school,
So you're just
and
not getting it.
you've spent all your life up until you graduate college, you've been focusing on your wants because all your needs have been taken care of. Your
Sure.
parents put the roof over your head, they feed
Hmm.
you, they take care of you, and so you can focus on your wants, and that's a dangerous place to go into the real world
It's
and say,
imaginary land.
you
And that's
know,
why you have other things that I've seen. And it seems like this is a very specific to the United States thing where you have professional students, where like you've seen it like where people go and they go for like, like a bachelor's degree and all of that kind of thing. They go for the 4 years, so on. And then they'll kind of like go and try and get a job or try and start a business or something, but they've never been taught anything practical about that either. So
no.
then what do? They kind of retreat back and like, I maybe I'll get a PhD. And you go, for what? And you go, because it's sort of like they've been indoctrinated like prison. You go like, I'm no good on the outside. I can't go out there.
And at least I could make more money with a PhD if and when I get a
See?
job,
See?
right? And if you're actually ever going to use it. Yeah, uh, I was telling you about my wonderful plumbing issues I've been having here at my home.
Mm-hmm.
And the gentleman who owns the company came to me and he said, it's really strange. He goes, I make good money. He goes,
Yeah.
but I had a hard time buying my first home because I didn't have that corporate job and that steady
Mm-hmm.
income kind of thing. He goes, I had plenty of cash. He goes, but I didn't have much of a credit rating because I never really needed it
We
or
we
worked
had
on it.
this we had the same experience actually, where we had like no credit, which is actually worse than having like bad credit because
It is.
everything was just done. And like you go like, oh yeah, we'll do a loan for this or something, and they go like no, and everyone were confused. They just kind of go like, what do you mean no? And you're like, you don't have anything on paper. Like, you just don't have it. So it's not about that. And that's another sort of, I'd say, failure on part of society is that you go like, I kind of have heard this before from communist China, social credit score and things and whatnot, and you go, it's not a far throw from it. When you start
No.
saying if you're not part of this system, you go again to the plumber's point, like he's paid well. People don't realize the trades are doing very well,
Very
and
well.
that man's doing fine. And then you go, I'd like to get a loan for a home or otherwise. And you go like, well, we won't cut you a check. And you go, why? You go, because you're not part of the system. That's it.
Well, and on top of that, a business owner typically, when it comes tax time, wants to make sure his accountant makes sure that he doesn't pay anything, that
Mm-hmm.
he's showing no income, and then he
Sure.
wants to go out and borrow money to buy a house or a car or something. They go, You're showing no income.
Mm-hmm.
How can we give you a loan? Because that's what we do. We like to judge people, and
Sure.
that's how we do it through the score, and then we can manipulate them so that we can get them to pay
Yeah.
a higher interest rate, so we can make more money as the bank or
Yep.
the lender. It's a wonderful system that is easily manipulated.
Yeah.
That
Usury is the word. It's all
it
kinds of bad.
it is. But let's go off in a little different direction.
Sure.
One of the things I really wanted to talk to you about is because you've not lived in the U.S. your whole life.
Bits and pieces everywhere.
Yeah, and so you're familiar, as I am, but most people aren't. That when Americans are hurting financially, economically, the rest of the world is actually hurting much more.
Mm.
It's compounded. Would you agree with that?
So I'll say it's a complicated answer because if you say it like, okay, are we talking England? Are we talking Central Europe? Are we talking kind of like Eastern Bloc countries? Because you can see it being affected one way or the other. I would say a lot of it is shared like with places that have central banks. So you see that sort of kind of layering effect. But it's not necessarily everywhere. Like actually, some countries where they aren't playing the game as much, where they're more low level, those are the ones that seem to be unaffected because they're sort of blissfully unaware of what's going on in the States. They're like, oh, things are going bad with this, and you go, hmm. So I think the closer the country is tied to the United States with a kind of methodology or culture, I think that's where it starts to be shared.
Yeah, you know what, I can definitely see that. The relationships, and now especially with the tariffs and things tied in that way,
Mm.
but that makes a difference.
Hmm.
I had experience when I was in Dubai. People were coming up to me in the lobby and saying the hotel, saying American, right? Looked pretty obvious, I guess. And
You're like, I don't look. Is there a turban? Like, nothing's on top. What gave it
exactly.
away? Like,
Well, they were looking at me. They were asking, "What the hell's going on?"
mm,
Yeah, and I knew what they meant. They meant economically
sure,
because they were getting pounded, and I said, I get it. When it's bad in America, it's worse for you, and they're like,
sure,
absolutely. I said, I hope when it's good in America that it's better for you, and they're like, well, it evens out over
sure.
time, but it's just interesting because economics are really um, influenced by interest rates
Mm,
and regulations, and things of that nature. When you're talking globally, because
sure.
interest rates change everything, right? They change your credit card
Mm,
rates, they change your loans, they change every aspect. And when you're talking business and you're talking billions and billions of loans and things of that nature,
sure.
it's a big difference. Which was interesting when England decided to secede from the euro and
Hmm.
go back to the pound, and they didn't realize how incredibly dumb that was. Uh, all the
Well, the thing
contracts had to
about
be
it is
rewritten,
the pound's doing okay though. So you go like, yeah,
but you got to
where
redo all
does
those
it?
contracts, and it changes.
Oh,
Oh,
I said nothing to the contrary. But
yeah,
it's an odd thing like when you talk Brexit and you talk the referendum and all of that stuff. And everyone have their own particular flavor to yell. But what's done is done. And I think at this point it's just kind of a curiosity that is left to be played out. One thing that you mentioned there that it made me think talking about the way of the wind. A curious one that's come up recently is Las Vegas, and I think not just interest rates, but I would say the personality and management style of those in charge of the resorts. That one is one that I don't think people saw coming either.
well, I agree with you. I agree with you, and that's why there's been such a large drop in tourism uh,
Hmm.
in that area. And sometimes you step on your own foot, right? Um, so
That's one way to say it.
and you fall down, go boom, and all of a sudden you got to get back up and get a glove and get in the game again. Um,
Yeah.
but but let's look at something. I wanted to ask you also,
Yeah.
um, do you feel, as I do, uh, most people spend far too much money on items and clothing and things of that nature because of status?
Okay. So the thing about it is, like, I've done master classes for high net worth, ultra high net worth individuals, and not on the investment side, but on the human side of things, of like,
Okay.
what does it look like if friends, like mates, become jealous? What happens if relationships fall apart? Like all that stuff that people go like, that's a thing, and I'm going, it's way bigger of a thing than you want to realize. And there's a concept that we have of, lifestyle creep. And if you rewind back, the 30, 40 years, like always the phrase was keeping up with the Joneses. And I think it's definitely a real thing. Like now you have people like on, insert website here, social media, this, and they'll go out and do a jet hire for, 20 minutes to do fake photographs inside of a Gulf Stream. And it's amazingly disingenuous to go, well, what is this? And you go like, oh, was that a G650? And you're like, what? I don't know what that is.
Right,
It's like
right.
it's a fake jet, and that's all it is to these people. So I think people definitely, because of every person and every device being connected to the internet all the time, there's a lot of lies being spread about like what people really live like, and really here's a big point: what brings them joy and what makes them happy. Because I'm here to tell you, most people don't want that stuff. Most people don't
No.
want this shiny thing. Most people want to kind of go back to the people want to be able to sleep well, take care of their family, have a beer, have a chat, maybe go fishing. But that's about what people want. People do not care, for the most part, about having 3 brand new iPhones. That's not a thing. But they
Right.
certainly have it looking like it, you know?
Yeah. Well, I like your point. It doesn't matter what level you're at
Mm-mm.
financially. We all have the same tendencies, and I agree with you. I've known many high net worth individuals, and they're still trying to keep up with the Joneses. It's we had a great show. I don't know if you've ever seen called Airplane Repo.
Mm.
And what was so interesting about this show was there were these 4 different groups of guys or people, entities that would go steal back airplanes,
I
uh,
know about these guys. Yeah, they're like type rated
helicopters.
on every single jet. Like you're
Yeah,
like, oh, what are you typed on? And you go like, what am I not typed on? Like that is ridiculous.
right. And it's so it affects all of us.
Hmm.
And it's all in how we handle our money and our relationship with money. At least that's the spin I sell. But it comes down to that because it's maybe it's just a little guy making 75,000 a year that's trying to drive that Corvette around.
Mhm.
And we have the saying house poor, and you can be car poor because you just have
Yep.
too much money
Hmm.
in one asset or one aspect of your life, and it's
Sure.
crushing the rest of your life. But I you know do you remember, and maybe you didn't live this lifestyle, but I remember getting out of college, and then all the friends would be like, "Hey, let's go out to dinner," and I'd be like,
Mhm.
"I can't afford that." And they're like, "Come on, come on, come on!" Peer pressure. So you go along, you go out to
Mhm.
dinner, you order the cheapest thing on the menu, a salad or whatever, glass of water, and
Sure.
they're having surf and turf, and old fashions and enjoying life,
Mhm.
and then they go, "Let's just split the bill 5 ways."
You,
And
I don't know if you've seen it. There's an episode of Friends that like 3 of them are doing well, like 3 of them are struggling, and the 3 that are doing well, it's not a thought for them. But the thing about it is, emotionally, they're oblivious to the other 3, and they're like, let's just go out, and they're like, oh yeah, let's just go out with who are paying for this, and it's that thing where it really does have the blinders on when you go like, well, unless you're taking care of them, don't put them in that spot, you know?
right, good point. Good point. Well, I wish I could tell that story. I guess I can't. My wife might get a little mad at me about a New Year's party that we went to,
You're
but
allowed. Maybe
uh,
redact the names.
yeah, we can always. I can have that edited out, maybe. But
There we
no, we
go. There
we
we
were
go.
asked to pay $35 a person to go to this bar to uh,
Sure.
and enjoy, and free drinks after that, and food and everything. And this
Mm,
is 35 years ago, um,
sure.
and so that was a lot of money at the time, and
Hmm.
we were getting married and didn't have a whole lot between us, and so we went to the pre-party and got talked into going to the bar. So
Okay.
we paid the money, and let's just say we got our money's worth in cocktails.
The
Um,
open bar got hit hard.
the open bar got hit a little harder than it should have, uh,
Uh-huh.
and and we did manage to stumble out and make it home, but you think about it now, it's like $35, big deal.
Yeah.
Um, but back in those days, that was a lot of pressure. And,
Yeah.
we put ourselves into these positions and situations. And one of the things I always say, my book could have been written in 3 words: just say no. And, and,
It's
and,
real.
and we don't do that.
Well,
We just, we're too impulsive. Uh,
okay. I'll put it in reference here as well. Like when you go kind of circling back to the casinos, if I whether I want to or not, like what do they always show? It's always the big winner. Ooh. ooh, look, Susie Camembert, she won, £20,000 at blah, blah, blah. And you go, yeah, but she was in for 50. And they don't want to tell you how much was dumped into all of this over and over. They just focus on the feel goods, the ABC, the ACE chords and all of that kind of stuff. Ooh, do-do-do. Everything's happy. But, if people took a step back with anything that is, think non-essential to you, anything that's just for joy, just for play, just for anything, think about going to a casino with the mindset of, okay, I'm going to take this, $20 bill or whatever it is and just set it on fire. That's my entertainment for the evening. That's my cost of entry. That's what I'm not over here trying to think that like I'm going to be World Series of Poker, because here's the thing, folks, probably not. So going in with just saying, look, I'm paying this to have fun tonight. It's a joke. Think of it like an arcade. Think of it like this. And if you come out with something extra, guess what? You see that little wall with the cage? Cash out and leave.
Yeah,
Be done.
100%. I just saw a recent statistics that, what was it? 90 over a 4-year period, 94% of those online gamblers for sports have lost money. They're
Not
underwater.
jokes.
94%. What does that tell you, folks? I mean, but wait a minute, it's not you that's listening. You're part of the 6%. I know. But
you guys are not going to beat the house. I'll say it out loud. The house is going to take. It's just going to happen.
what do you think that they can build those big, beautiful hotels and big casino rooms and have a pirate ship out front or a
exactly.
pyramid or something along those lines?
Mini Eiffel Tower.
It's not any different from like the big banks. It's like they're making money on you. And
look at that in like mega churches, the same kind of thing. You go, quick question. How did the pastor have, a Rolls Royce? And you go, don't ask.
It was a gift from God, and let it go with that.
Yep.
It's because I often talk. My book is doing God's work, and I'm a servant, and you will not see me driving a Rolls Royce anytime soon. I can tell you that. At least not one that I own. It might be stolen, but it's not one that I own.
No, you're much more of a Bugatti man, I can tell.
Yeah, that or Aston Martin maybe, but
there you go.
Which would be nice. But yeah, what are some other things you see about Americans that are how they handle money or with money?
Well, I think it's all, again, kind of been like a 30 to 50 year rug pull. This was like even talking about food and like what people value and like, do people cook at home? And a lot of times the answer is no. And when you look at the fact that there's no food in food anymore, like there's no nutrition, you look at like, oh, well, like there's an epidemic of low testosterone and this, and I'm going, how many times do I need to bang on this drum? Food. But you look at all of this stuff, yeah, a little bit. And I remember it was me and my wife driving around. This was 1,000 years ago, Fort Worth, Texas, and there was a billboard, which actually this is timely given McDonald's new burger challenge or whatever they had, how you'd like to call it, with the I'm going to enjoy this burger. But they had a billboard, and I couldn't make this up if I wanted to, and it said, now with 100% beef. And we like instantly, like someone had like flipped on a switch in our heads. We just turned to each other and went, what was in it before? Like, it was this, like, who thought that was a good idea to put this on a billboard, like, now with 100% beef? Quick question, you're telling me that it wasn't prior.
You just admitted, right.
Just saying, and you thought that was clever, So I think when you look at, like, people going, like, fast food didn't used to be made with, like, paper, but now it's like, well, how much food is in this? And you go, 13%. Like, there's really not a lot. And now, like, what do you pay for fast food? You pay more at insert
Unbelievable.
chain here than you would to go out to a steak dinner. And that's not an exaggeration. And it's become this insanity. It's sort of the metaphor of like you put the frog in boiling water, it's going to jump out. But if you do the slow boil, it'll stay. And I think that's what's happened where people like go to like McDonald's or Taco Bell or this or whatever. And it's stuff that's overpriced, not good for them, but it's been this slow creep. And that's something I definitely see,
I can't get this out of my head. The old line, where's the beef?
Oh my goodness, it's what the Wendy's had it. Where's the beef? And they're just, that's an awful big bun. Where's the beef?
You know, the woman who said that line
I do.
made it up at the spot of the moment.
I love that
It
improv.
was not
That
part
is
of any
brilliant.
script or anything. It was a spot of the moment. She became famous for like 4 years. They traveled her
So
around the
good.
country. But
It was
I
so
couldn't stop
good.
thinking about that. But you know, when you talk about food and fast foods and stuff,
Oh,
a
goodness,
couple
yeah.
of things was, you know, we have the GLP-1 now, that drug that came out where, you know, helps people lose weight, right? So now they think they
At
can
the
go
the
back to
trade-off
fast
of heart
food.
attacks coming soon, I
Yeah,
guarantee you.
you know, it just encourages people to continue eating the style that they've been eating because now they're going to lose weight anyway. But the other thing that bugs me to no end, and my kids, I don't think my son does this as much anymore, but my daughter was doing it
Okay.
a lot, was Grubhub. You know, order fast food
Oh,
and
the
have it
food
delivered.
delivery thing? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You can't, you're so lazy, you can't go
You don't
6
have a
blocks down the
car?
road to
Like one
pick
of
up some
these?
food. And, you know, it just blows my mind that I'm going to be willing to give up another, you know, 4, 5, 6, whatever dollars it is. And I go, and if you do this every day, that adds up.
It adds up quick. And see, that's the thing. Like, think, like all of like convenience fee and all of this. Like who are the absolute king of that just disgusting nonsense? I think like Ticketmaster. And you go, oh, for the privilege of being able to purchase a ticket. And you go like, I didn't even want to go to this concert. I don't know what you're talking about. Like this.
And the plan on going fee, you know, you know, it's I ordered a couple of weeks ago, I ordered a pizza online,
Okay.
local shop. I noticed they charged me $1.99 to order online.
Well, how
And then they
kind of
charge
them.
you another 3 to 4% because I used a debit card. And I'm like, because I go into businesses and they'll say debit or credit. And I go, why do you say that? Well, we need to know whether you're going to use debit or credit because they're going to charge you different fees or something. And I said, I'm fully aware of the fact that if I use a debit card, there are lower costs to you and your business.
It's not feed like credit cards for you guys. I
Right.
know.
And if I use a credit card, yeah, you don't make as much profit. I said, so why do you ask people debit or credit? Why don't you just say debit? Why don't you encourage them to say, will you be using your debit card today? You know, and don't even bring up the credit card aspect of things.
If you wanted
Little
to
things.
do that, just don't accept the credit card. But guess what? That's not the way this game is played at this day and age. So, yeah, exactly.
Well,
A little bit of
I've always been warned, and I've been in the restaurant industry, and I was always warned, be careful and beware of ever eating at a place that's cash only.
cash only places still exist.
Oh,
Definitely.
they do. One of my favorite places is cash only, but
Some of the best steak restaurants, absolutely serious. You go like it's cash only, best wine list you'll ever see, and you go like it's been there for 70 years. Like,
Yeah.
that's just what they do.
Yeah, true, true. It's yeah. I go to my favorite place to get my disaster sandwich. Cash only.
Disaster sandwich.
That's what it's called.
I love
That's
it.
what it's called. But you know, and it's funny. I remember one time going there and I had to go out to the car to get coins because I didn't have enough cash. Who carries cash anymore?
I love that.
Right? Who carries cash?
Well-
And now I carry cash,
Yeah.
but I don't have anywhere to spend it because I don't want to
Well,
put
see, that's
I don't want to put it in
Yeah.
those machines at the Walmart or the grocery store or something like that, and then I get a whole bunch of coins back, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm like, what am I going to do with these? I mean, we don't even
Exactly.
make pennies anymore.
Yeah, well, that's where you need to bring back the good old fashioned like gigantic jug and just like have that where you go like, put this in at the end of the day. Guess I'm done.
Well,
Like-
I'm seeing a lot of elderly folks at
Mm.
these stores at those coin machines, and they're dumping
Yeah.
bags in or they're dumping jars in like that. And it pains me to watch that going on, but that's a reality of life, and
Yeah.
that's in part it's poor planning. Maybe it's just unfortunate circumstances, but because people think
I think
when
it's
they
a
retire,
combination of all. Again, like
it
we've
is.
talked about, like if you look at like England, you look at the United States, especially specifically since the 1980s, everything started being worth less at a geometric rate. You start looking at like, well, oh, how much was the purchasing power of the pound or the USD?
Mhm.
And you go, you may as well just burn it. Like it's
Yeah,
just gone. And I
yeah,
think that's the thing is that people want to exist in a kind of a static mindset where at least you're not standing on quicksand where you go like, oh, okay, I'm on even footing. But the truth of the matter is money is this gigantic farce where it's always worse, especially now that, being off gold standard and everything else.
hmm
So people think that it's sort of a snapshot, like, oh, it was worth this much, it's going to be worth this much now. And it's definitely not the case. So again, kind of goes back to the, slow boil of the frog. And I think that's the sort of diabolical thing going back to education as well, is that none of this is really talked about, certainly not in the open.
No, and here's how that works. So you have $100, let's say 5 years ago. You had
Hmm.
$100. You put it in your bank account that's your savings account that's earning you 1/4%.
Hmm.
But the cost of living is going up at 3% a year. So after
Hmm.
5 years, it's up 15%. Compounded,
Hmm.
it's a little bit more than that. So that $100
Yep,
buying power is only $85 now at
exactly.
best. And for folks that's how that works with eating your money away. So, uh, you,
Absolutely.
and I don't like CDs and money markets because it ties your money up, but I do like online
Hmm.
banks, which pay that 3.5, 4% for you putting your savings in there. That's
Sure.
something good to do. But before I forget,
Yeah,
you have your own show.
I do.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I can tell a little bit. So I'm always always doing just enough. I describe myself kind of the old-timey performers with the spinning plates. I always spin as many as I can without breaking any. So as far as um the Recalibrated is a show that we crafted kind of just before the end of last year, and it's centered around veterans and clandestine operators, and it's sort of like a 3-point story arc of what being in the service looked like, what transitioning out is, and what today looks like. And we've had some absolutely brilliant guests, some world famous, and it's just telling the story. Like if you want to go on some of these shows, you can listen to 6 hours of
Mhm.
combat. If that's what floats your boat, great. Our show is about the human aspects and what amazing things these individuals are doing today. And then actually on another end, I've become wildly popular on TikTok because reasons.
Right.
So yeah, we actually had a video we put out the other day got like
A couple hundred thousand hits or so.
700,000. Yeah,
Seven
it's
hundred thousand hits.
it's more than a few. So I'm actually starting doing lives on TikTok actually tomorrow. So there are loads of ways to catch me.
Well, so the Recalibrator show. We
The
can find that
Recalibrated. Yeah.
the Recalibrated show. I want to make sure that's
Yes.
clear.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
I have
The show is the Recalibrated.
the Recalibrated show. Okay, you can find that on any
Yeah.
channel, I would imagine.
You go into YouTube. You can look up my name, Meade Kincke. That's the YouTube channel. That handle is for everywhere. So if you want to find me, first and surname, it's every place.
TikTok. No, I'm not a
Yep.
TikTok guy, so I wouldn't know how to find you on TikTok.
It's actually the thing about it is that's wild. TikTok is like I know that there's been a lot of noise about like, oh, it's terrible, oh, it's this. It's actually really fun. And it's one of those wild things where it's kind of brought back the enjoyment of being able to interact with the audience. And I think that's been something that's lacking on other platforms.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Interesting. I also wanted to say, when you're spinning a lot of plates without breaking them,
Mm.
you're not trying hard enough. You got to start breaking a few plates. You know, I would tell that to business owners.
I like it.
If you're always in your comfort zone, you're not trying hard enough.
Oh, no. It's always at the edge.
I know
I'll
you,
say
though.
it
I
that
know
way.
you're always at the edge. That doesn't surprise me at all.
No.
But I really wanted to thank you for coming on this show.
Oh, well,
Thank
thank
you
you for
for
having me, Bill.
entertaining us with your wonderful knowledge on
I do what
finances,
I can.
and you didn't pull any guns out this time,
I didn't.
and
Maybe for the
and
next time.
and no cocktail this time.
No, we're keeping this one boring. We can say it that way.
This, if you know me, this is low key for him. No question about it. But I love your passion with the military. I'm in there with you.
Oh, yeah.
We belong to the same
Definitely.
networking group for veteran-owned businesses.
VOB,
It's a
absolutely
big deal for
brilliant
me.
people.
And that transitioning that you work with, those are
Yeah.
the targets for myself as well. So maybe you can come over to Oahu with me when we go visit the boys there. But that'll be in June,
Remind me, what's the time frame?
sometime in June.
Okay.
I can narrow it
Okay.
down to 1 month. That's
Yeah.
more
No,
than
that's fair enough.
likely, more than likely the third week in June or so. So it'll be upon our return from
Yeah, we actually have a
New
lot
Zealand.
of guys in Hawaii, like which you wouldn't expect, but yeah, we've got guys that do like one does a wedding venue, like all kinds of really, really fun stuff.
Yeah, I've
Mhm.
never had a desire to go there, thankfully, nor does my
Well,
wife. But
well, it's
but
on the
I
docket
can
now.
stop on the way back from a trip that's even beyond that. So it doesn't hurt to stop in and see what we can't do to help the good folks in the military
There we go.
sector. But again, thank you so much for coming on. Don't
Thank
forget,
you for having
look
me.
Meade up for the Recalibrated show. Check
Yes,
them out
indeed.
on TikTok. 700,000 hits. Seriously, folks. I've seen it. It's hilarious. But
Well, thank
keep
you
up
for that.
keep up all the great work. Really appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks
you,
so
sir.
much.